How's it going there, teacher friends, as well as reading friends? I want to share with you an activity that I call Tell Me How You Feel, merged with one that I call Show Me How You Really Feel. Since we don't have students in the same ability in our classrooms, we always can't always teach them the same way to write when it comes to expressing their point of view and their perspective. And two ways to share your point of view in writing, a way to get your voice out, is to share with the reader what's going on inside your head. And so think of your voice as your thoughts and your opinions. And also I'm going to touch my heart down here, your feelings and your emotions regarding something. So let me encourage those of you who have students who are still writing at the 1 or 2 level to tell their opinions with higher vocabulary, or to tell their emotions with higher vocabulary. And for those of you that have 2s and 3s, the middle kids, get them to remove that word and replace it. It's basically a concept of revising, to replace it with a higher phrase or an entire sentence or 2 sentences that show what you're doing. So let me give you a couple of examples. One essay that I read from a 4th grader was about a time that he went exploring. He was camping, and he had gone out exploring on some trails, and basically the entire essay, 2 whole pages, lasted about 4 seconds of his life. But he did what I call still stepping on a remote, where I got to see every single millisecond of those 4 seconds. And something that I often say in my trainings is reading and writing happen in slow motion, even though life happens at full speed. We've got to be able to slow life down in terms of our reading and writing to see every detail. So what that student did was, during his 4 seconds, he shared with the reader that he was standing on top of a snake. And I don't know how most of you guys would feel, but I don't like snakes. I don't like spiders. I can't stand the thought of being bitten or walked on by one of them, or having a snake wrapped around my leg or my body like you see in the movies. And so he started off, he was scared, and he wrote, instead of scared, he gave a little simile that said, it's kind of like this soda bottle when you shake it really hard and then you open it. So what he was trying to share with you, to show, is his emotions, where when he's scared, he feels like he's ready to explode. And so that's his way of viewing the world. That's his way of looking at fear. What does he do, or what does he say? And so something else that he did was shared his opinions. He said, the thoughts inside my head were going crazy. I was going out, things like this were running through my mind. Run, shout, scream, do something, call the police before he hurts you, go, go, go. And those were almost the exact words. And that's basically showing versus telling. But if you have a kid who can't really put into words, tell him or her to show you with their body how they react and you put into words for them what they were doing, what they were saying, their facial expressions, their body language, hand gestures. That's called show versus tell. And that's a big component of the reading part of the binder back in the fives, the 500s, where I kind of merged the reading and writing world. Now, let's go to a seventh grader. A seventh grader one time was talking about the frustrations that happen when you deal with the everyday life of being a student. So I want to share with you real quick in the binder. If you go to page 236, as you can see here, there's a section that says, that's your opinion. And so you would want your kids who can only accomplish ones and twos to use those bold words that are in red: nice, funny, smart, taste, like, pretty, fun, good, bad. Well, the student who was dealing with a snake, that was a bad situation. And he was saying basically that it was crazy, but in a negative way. So when your students are asked in seventh grade, what about the importance of something, then they should be using some of these words down here for their STAR test writing. These things are vital, they're important, they're crucial, they're critical. One year, the fourth grade, they said, write about something that's hard, write about something that's difficult and explain why it's difficult. Well, they should have been using some of these synonyms and telling, better yet, show me, how do you act when things are hard? How do you feel? And so if you will go to the next page, the very next page does this same concept, but with emotions. In fact, it's 2 pages. Let me go to the next page. So a lot of times prompts are positive. So you can teach your kids on page 237 in the binder, use synonyms of happy that are appropriate to your understanding, your grade level, or any of the other ones. Remember, if you're trying to turn your 1-2 kids into 2-3 kids, then tell them to tell me how you feel using a higher word. And as you can see here, I have 2 full pages of colorful synonyms that go with the most common emotions. Now, this is just in the writing section. When I get to the reading portion of the binder, when we start doing our DEAR, daily editing, essay, and reading, revising, or what I call readvising, covering everything to do with writing and reading, then you'll be able to see me combining some of these reading concepts. So think of it like this. I'm gonna go forward in the binder to what I call the word bank mountain pages. So what you're basically telling your student to do is to think of himself as climbing a vocabulary ladder. And as you can see, this is the happy, sad ladder, the antonyms of each other. And they're climbing what I call word bank mountain to get to the treasure words, the ones that are a little bit higher vocabulary. And so the student, depending on his or her ability level, would either climb up or down the ladder until he or she got to a word that was more appropriate for him or her. And these would make great little mini posters on your wall, or if you made copies of them in color, and the kids could have them in their writing folders if you have something like that. Let me show you just kind of a glimpse of some of the other ones. Let me show you the bottom of the word so you can see what we're building from. Big, small, good, bad, walked, ran, like, hate, smiled, cried, taste, smell, hearing, touch, went, looked, very, got, adverbs versus adjectives, adverbs and more adverbs. So how you do things, and then it goes into the transitions. So what I suggest that you do is try to think, if I have a kid, let's say, for example, who you can tell feels like he or she wants to cry, then ask them what they do when they feel like crying, when they're discouraged, when they're disappointed. Because there was this seventh grader, she wrote in her essay, in her introduction, she basically painted a picture of her emotions by letting the reader see the expression on her face. It was something to this effect. Every day on the way to school is a blur, and the butterflies inside my stomach transform into writhing, agitated snakes. And so she wasn't just using an old simile, oh, I had butterflies in my stomach. No, every day on the way to school was a blur. In other words, she couldn't even concentrate on what was going on around her. She was in such a bewildered, discouraged state of mind that the entire trip to school each morning was a blur. And the butterflies that are in the stomach of most children transformed, great word choice, into writhing, kind of knotted up, agitated, really ticked off snakes. So basically the snakes were inside of her, eating her alive. So that's what they mean when they say show. And so in a reading question, they're never going to tell you how the character feels. They're going to show you his or her actions, her thoughts, her opinions, movements, and you have to kind of infer, reading between the lines based on what the character is doing. The same student basically was talking about the process of one day, and when she got home, she wrote about throwing herself on her bed and sobbing her stress and anxiety into a much enduring pillow. And so as you see behind me there, that's a beautiful bed. But if I were to write to you that I just fling myself on my bed every evening and sob my stress and anxiety into a much enduring pillow, that paints an entirely different picture about what life is like for you alone at night in your bedroom. The student seems hopeless, and you can tell that by what she's writing. So what you want to do is try and pull that out of your kids, because if you can get them to show you with their actions and their reactions, the way that they act when certain things happen, or if you can catch them reacting, you can say, hey, that's your voice, you do this. And so what I would suggest that you do is have a list of all those emotions, and instead of having synonyms like you saw on my list, have a list, and this is in my show don't tell section of the reading of the reading portion of the binder. Have a list of a dozen things that you say or do or think, or the way you act when you feel each emotion. And basically it's going to be an emotion glossary, so to speak. So I hope that this is helpful. Remember, tell me for the students who struggle, and show me for the ones who are in the middle. Thanks and God bless.